So welcome everyone here in Lucy. Today our guest is Patrick Zaki. Welcome. So you're here because you wrote this book for La Nave di Teseo, which is called Sogni e illusioni di libertà. But also you've been once again these days in the eye of a mediatic storm. So the first question I have for you is, how are you?
No, I'm fine. I'm really happy to be with you today, and thanks for this kind invitation. I will welcome any criticizing because that's what I believe in, that we should have a different point of views and we should have this way to talk to each other and to reach a point about this.
We will address some of these controversies during the interview, but the first thing I would like to ask you, because you have a very complex identity, because you're from Egypt, but you belong to a minority, which is the Coptic one, that has been actually is not been very welcome in Egypt, especially during the last decades. Copts are Christians. They are the Oriental Christians, very ancient population. Once they were 25% of Egyptian population, but during the years you became more of a minority, and even you have nominal rights like every other Egyptian people. Some of the highest roles in the state you cannot access to them, and you're also a human rights defender. You study gender studies, so it's a lot of different things. But the first thing I would like to ask you is, how was growing up for you being Coptic in Egypt?
To be honest, the conditions considering the Christians in Egypt is not horrible. But we are facing a lot of obstacles. We are facing a lot of racism, but it's not out loud. You can find it throughout the system, throughout the non-equity in opportunities, not having the same rights. And that's the article that I wrote and I was imprisoned for. You can say it's a systematic racism that grew up since years and years in the system. So it's a systematic thing. You can't point on something if you are not aware with all the details of stuff. So I grew up in this community. What I faced when I was young, I was really sad when I grew up in the school, maybe because they put all the Christians in one class.
So you were separated.
Not separated. They put all of us in one class with other colleagues, but all the other classes have no Christians. So why we do this? And we will compare this where I was in the prison.
In prison, exactly.
All the Christians in one cell. So sometimes people say about this, it's a positive thing about that they want to keep you all together for safety or something like that. But for me, as a human rights defender and as someone who have some experience considering these issues, it's not the solution. The solution is to make a liquefying. Everyone will be in touch with everyone, and everyone should be a part of the society with equal rights, equal opportunities. And those kind of actions put us in a cult, put us in a walls that we always feel that we are not like the others. I think we need to work a lot for these cases, and especially to grow up a new generation that believe that all the Egyptians have the same rights and equity in opportunities.
Do you believe that also this complex relationship affect your positions or your identity or your thoughts?
Look, we want to be honest. I grew up in a country that have a conflict and a war, and we have relatives who had died in this war in 1973 and even before it. So yeah, for sure, anyone who grew up in a culture is affected by this culture. But does this reflected on my opinions? I don't think so, because I was really framed from the first moment that I say that I'm pro-Palestine, and being pro-Palestine is not only for the people who are with Hamas. The Gazan people are a lot. They are 2 million. If Hamas is 2 million, the situation would not be like that. For sure, as a human rights defender, I'm against any violence toward any civilian. And I specify what's the definition of civilians at this conflict. Because it's not a conflict that happened in one day, by the way. It's a war that
it's a war.
built it up. And no one can feel like, oh, they are surprised with what happened. No, that's the results of the policies of a government of Netanyahu that full of racism toward the other, that build up on a bureaucracy and fundamentalism that they build up for years. So we are talking about a really government.
No, Netanyahu government is, yeah.
Criticized by even the people who are living.
Yeah, the Israeli, yeah, of course. No, it's a very far-right government, plus also it's full of corruption. Netanyahu is now under...
under like...
Exactly. But the really, terrible thing to see, I guess, was the fact that Hamas massacred civilians from kibbutz that were almost all like pacifists and tried to, help the relationship between Palestine and Israel. So it was a very difficult thing because, of course, there were no soldiers there. Like their targets were civilian peoples. And I think initially the problem was the fact that for some people there was some difficulty to express the same solidarity to civilian people from Israel and not only in Palestine. Of course, Israel has this very far-right government and corrupt one. But how would you define Hamas?
The question that we can ask, what make Hamas appeared in Palestine? What was the circumstances that make some people that there is no chance for peace in this zone?
Patrick, but you make you make it very simple. It's not as simple though, right? Like it's not simple.
It's not simple. Yeah.
It's not simple. Because you could say the same thing like when in 2006, Netanyahu was the most right-wing possibility in Israel. So I think the situation grew, the tension grew between the parts. So it's difficult to say that the Hamas is only a resistance from Israel, because I think it goes a bit...
Look, I didn't say a resistance of Israel. I mean, when we are talking about the conflict, we need to know the context.
Yeah, of course.
Reach this point, and even defining Hamas, at the end of the day, I'm not expert in the Palestinian-Israeli issue to say to you, to ask me, can you define Hamas? So I tell you that the history of Hamas.
Do you think Egypt will take some of the...
I think it will be not the right choice.
Not the right choice?
Sure. I'm against opening the gate.
The Rafah.
Yeah, sure. I'm against this. Even if they accept this, I'm against this. Why? We can accept the cases that need a medical support. We can accept the cases that they are facing.
This is happening right now.
In hospitals. That's what's happening right now. But to accept that the Gazan people displaced to Sinai, no, we are here in the right place, because that means that all of this happened to make more lands to be taken from Palestinian to the Israeli side. And that will not be suitable, because Gaza people don't want to be displaced or to lose their houses or to lose their lands again. They already have did this, or they already passed by this. So that's how I see that I will not welcome that Egypt could. And I think, by the way, the Egyptian government don't want.
No, don't want.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, sometimes for sure you will be on the same side with the government in some decisions, and I'm with them at this point. You should not accept something like that. And we should work more to find a political solution for the current situation and the critical moment that we have, to see how we can make a closeness to solve this issue. And that's my rule.
So how did you become a human rights activist?
It's a little long story, because I was in pharmacy. I was in the University of Pharmacy in Egypt, like of the undergrad, and I grew up dreaming with being as a pharmacist, like when I was too young, even where I was also like having a political point of views, and always participating in political activism. I was young, even in school, but at the end of the day, sometimes because of being a minority, it's always better for you to go for a university that you will be in a proper job that give you the proper income, and even being forced by my family that you should go for that. By the way, when I was asking my family that I want to see if it's like there is a chance to be in a political science university, they saying, no, you can't, because there is no future for people in political science, and even being a Coptic, you don't have like this chance of being something in this field. So yeah, at the early beginning, I was thinking about that. I have doubts. should I go for political science or pharmacy? But at the end of the day, at this age, always your families can change your opinion. But after the revolution, specifically in 2011, I take the decision I will not more being in pharmacy. Even after I finished the university, I start my career and I shifted my career to work in human rights because I really love to be in this field. I really believe that it's the place where I can make an effect, where I can work, where I can find myself, really making a real change that I'm dreaming for my country and for my people. And I think since then and since what I passed by, I feel like I have a duty toward those minorities and those people that I should be the voice of them. I should be supporting them. I should make it more out loud their problems and how we can fix those problems. Considering, as I mentioned for you, the religious minorities, the women in Egypt, the LGBTQ plus community, everyone who's facing oppression, who's facing violence, who's facing any kind of problems, I should be the voice of those people.
So in this book, Sogni e illusioni di libertà, you told your story about your detention in the Egyptian prisons, plural, because you've been in many of them. Did you already know about yourself that you were able to resist and not give names of others even under torture? Is it something that you knew about yourself, or did you discover it there?
Oh, I'm not trained one for this for sure. I think I was privileged again because I always want to say that I'm the luckiest one in the prisons because I have the support. I have worked in this field for years and years, so I heard a lot of testimonies about how they deal with the prisoners. So everything that I was facing, I hear maybe about it before. At least I hear something close to this scenario. So when I got stopped at the airport and I was sure that I will be in prison right now, I was making myself systematically, Patrick, you should remember that 1, 2, 3, 4 scenarios could happen. How we will deal with this? How we will deal with this, how we will act with this. And that's how I build my resistance in the first few hours, because from my experience, I know that the first 48 hours is the hardest hours, or until you appear in front of the governmental institutions and to be put in the prison, it's the hardest hours when they are asking you for more info about what you were doing, what's going on, as you read in the book.
Yeah. So another question, how did you work on this book? Because I'm curious about the process. Were you thinking about writing it while you were in prison? No?
No.
So it was not something that you did while there to resist?
No, look, since I got released, I wasn't thinking about writing a book or diaries because at the end of the day, I found myself as a researcher and a human rights defender who will work in advocacy as I have planned for myself, and not a writer or not someone who's into literature and writing books and having books. I didn't think about it. But when I came to Italy, a lot of friends, professors tell me it would be really useful if we read your experience, if we read about your experience, if we can use the book as a reference for us when we are teaching people about this years in the history of Egypt. So that was a little bit motivation for me to start using my diaries that I wrote in the prison to start remember some stuff. And by the way, writing the book was one of the ways that my doctor, my psychiatrist, tell me it's a way for a better life for you, that you wrote the stuff to
elaborate,
to digest the situation. So I used the book in all of this stuff to make awareness about what's going on, to help the prisoners who are there, to make advocacy about the prisons in Egypt and about prisoners of consciousness, to help myself, to make the students who are always really interested in the situation of the politics of Egypt and the human rights and the freedom of speech, to have a look over this, to have a look over my experience. And even I was focusing throughout the book about the humanitarian part, not only politics and the problems with the regime.
Exactly. It's very human.
That's what I was searching for, because I read a lot of books about the prison that was focusing so much about the politics
system.
And the system. And how, for me, I was thinking more about the humanitarian part and about the prisoner, not the system. how the prisoner adapt with this, how the prisoner deal with it.
I have a question that I'm thinking about it right now. Maybe it's stupid or shallow. I hope it's not. But reading your book and having you here, and of course, you go to a psychiatrist and you elaborate everything. But at the same time, while reading you, I don't know, like I asked myself, like, if you could go back in time, would you do something differently?
I was lucky that I passed by all the experiences that I passed by in my life. I will not change my mind. So even thinking about what if I didn't go back to Egypt? No one knows. If I stayed in Italy, maybe anything happened to me. So I always try to see this or to analyze this in optimistic way or in a positive way to can resist more and to can digest and elaborate, as I tell you. So this kind of questions that I was showered with in my cell in the Cairo. Because at the end of the day, I'm a human being. I don't want to be in this situation. I don't want to be in prison. So most of the times in my cell, when I was like before sleeping, I always ask myself, "Oh, why you do this? Was that the right choice? What about your family? What about your wife? What about your life? If you were only working as a pharmacist, does anything will be changed?" Really, I stayed 2 years asking myself those questions on a daily basis.
Of course.
But at the end, I find like if I resume doing that, I will not.
It would not. Yeah, it would not be the person. Yeah. Which authors were the one you read in prison?
Look, I grew up, and when I was young, I was always into two kind of books: the political book and the football books.
Okay.
Like the history of football, like stuff like that. I was always searching for that. I wasn't into art at all,
or fiction,
or stuff like that. But when I came to Bologna, I had a different experience.
Okay.
Because when I came, I was thinking that I will study in the university only history, politics, theories, stuff like that. But I found myself that I'm studying in so much disciplines, some novels. And that was a new thing for me. Because before, when someone before coming to Italy, telling me I'm having a novel and I'm enjoying the novel, from my point of view, oh, you are ruining your time. You should think about something like that.
More important.
More important like that. But when I start to read novels, I find that even through novels, we can find politics, we can find history, we can find like a space to imagine and to innovate and to do a lot of stuff. So when I was in a prison, I was asking always about novels, because novels take you out of a space to another place. So I really love Elena Ferrante. It takes me out of the prison. My brilliant friend, amazing thing. I started with the first part in the university, and the other parts in the prison.
Would you read it in Italian?
No, I read it in English. Look, I'm working on my Italian as much as I can, but to read a full book in Italian,
it's hard.
It's a bit like
also, Elena Ferrante is particularly hard.
It's very, very intellectual. It was like a very good language. I think that could be for a beginner, like hard thing.
Of course.
To adapt with, I like a lot, and I was really lucky to read The Blindness. I like this book a lot. And I reflect about it, because somehow in the prison, the prisoners are in blindness.
Yeah.
Well, how this happened? Because you don't know what's going on over there. You don't know what's going on in the world. So you are blinded on what's going on.
Yeah.
So when I read it, I feel like, maybe we are in the same situation.
Yeah.
We are like numbers of blinded people of what's going there, what's happening in the other worlds. A lot of books really was really touching me in the prison, and I was lucky to read a huge number of books in this time, because that gave me the power to resist, the power to escape, the power to kill the time, because time is the main enemy in the prison.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, and this is Patrick Zaki Book, Sogni e illusioni di libertà, edito da Nave di Teseo. Grazie mille.
Lucy.